Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
I'm Kelsey.
I'm Kristen.
And this is a special episode of A Trial by Podcast featuring, oh, this is a bad start already, featuring Kristen from True Crime Creepers.
So excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you. So, for the listeners, this is probably going to be the first of two crossover episodes that you're going to hear this week with Kristen. So, we actually already recorded the other episode, but I think for our feed, we're going to release this one first. So, today's Tuesday, and then on Thursday, you're going to get a second, bonus episode this week where Kristen is going to tell me a story.
Yeah, so, we had fun. It was a good one.
We did have fun. It's such a good story, guys. It's obviously very sad, very horrific, but great storytelling too.
Oh, thank you. And I cannot wait to hear what you have for me today. I love being on the other side of the mic.
I know that was my first time really for the most part. I was like, oh, I'm interrupting too much. So I want you to not feel like that. That's what I want. I want you to interrupt as much as possible.
That's what I tell all of my co-hosts and my usual co-hosts, but I've been having some guest co-hosts lately, and I'm like, do not hold back. I can edit stuff out. You jump in whenever you feel like you have something to say. It could be really good. You never know.
Exactly. So if you guys you're going to hear me say this on the bonus episode on Thursday. You're going to hear me say it on one of the episodes that me and Emily have coming up, because I talked about it when we recorded, after I recorded with Kristen. But I've been listening to True Crime Creepers for at least a year, probably 2 years now. And so this is my first crossover episode that's checking off a box on my true crime collab bucket list. So if you guys don't already listen to True Crime Creepers, you'll love them. Check them out. You can listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. You'll see their little pop art, cover art, which is super cute. So
thank you. Yeah.
So I guess with that being said, should we jump into the story?
I think we should. I'm excited.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about the murder of Kendra Hatcher. Now, this is a story that scares me to my core because I don't know if you've ever dated someone with a crazy ex, This is kind of the crazy ex with the worst possible outcome of all time. So even though we're talking about Kendra today, we are going to start with someone else who is a woman by the name of Brenda Delgado. So Brenda Delgado first met a man, Dr. Ricardo Ricky Paniagua, in Dallas around 2012. She was a dental assistant aspiring to become a dental hygienist, and he was a young dermatologist. They dated for over 2 years, and they even lived together for a time. Now, their relationship had moments of deep intimacy, and at one point, Brenda even became pregnant, though she ultimately decided not to carry the pregnancy to term. By early 2015, however, the romance was faltering, and in February 2015, Ricky broke things off with Brenda. Now, this breakup was especially painful for Brenda, made worse, she felt, by the impersonal way that it was handled, because he had actually broken up with her through an email rather than in person.
Not an email. That's even worse than a text.
Yes, like a text, I get. But an email, that's crazy.
That's like how you cancel an appointment. Or like
how do you think it started? Like, hey, Brenda, I hope this email finds you well.
I always think it's weird. And maybe it's just like not a thing that me and my friends do, but I always think it's weird when I read stories about friends emailing each other. I'm like, why are you emailing? Why are you not texting? Like, I don't get that.
Especially like in 2015, you know, everybody had iPhones and stuff by then. It's not like, oh, everybody had a flip phone and it was a pain.
Right.
But yeah, one of the cases that Emily and I just recorded, it's going to be released after this episode. That we have the same thing where someone is literally sitting in the same room as their significant other and they send them an email to break up with them. What? While they're in the same room together. Like, no. And
I'm just like trying to catalog all of the apps that I have on my phone that are used for messaging purposes or could be used for messaging purposes. And email is not one that, do you remember when Gmail even had like a Google chat? Like you could chat in your email. Like it had a, I don't think
no,
that's a
I wish
thing
they
anymore.
would bring that back. Like that
I remember
way easier.
Yeah, I used it like a couple of times. But barring that, Gmail is not what I go for to chat with somebody.
Exactly.
A
Same
breakup
here.
email. That's amazing. Okay.
So you can see when, first of all, you're already in this relationship, you've gone through something kind of difficult. You know, she decided to end this pregnancy and she's still very much in love with him. She doesn't want this relationship to end. And then on top of all of that, he ends it by sending an email. I would be pretty distraught as well, you know?
Yes.
However, despite the breakup, Brenda just was clinging onto this hope of that they were going to reconcile things at some point. Now, Ricky later testified that he remained friends. That's verbatim, remained friends with Brenda after they split, suggesting that he tried to keep things civil between them so they could, you know, chat every once in a while and just get along and all of that. But in reality, Brenda saw every interaction she had with Ricky after the breakup as an opportunity to try and win him back. She continued contacting Ricky and staying present in his life in ways that were both subtle and extremely overt. At trial, Ricky described, quote, strange encounters, end quote, in the months after their split. Brenda would randomly appear on his jogging route or show up at the same restaurants when he was out on dates. And these coincidences were actually no accident because Brenda Delgado was already descending into pure obsession. Now, unbeknownst to Ricky, Brenda had secretly gained access to his digital life. She knew his email and his iCloud passwords and even kept a key to his apartment. She installed a phone tracking app to monitor his real-time location. And every new development in Ricky's post-Brenda life was meticulously documented. Later, police would find screenshots Brenda took of Ricky's text messages, his social media posts, and like his DMs, even his airline reservations with his new girlfriend.
Oh my God.
So she's just logging into all of his accounts, keeping track of where he's going to be and who he's hanging out with, and then just, you know, oh, what a coincidence that you happen to be at the same place that I am.
Oh my God. Yeah. It makes it so, like, if you can find somebody's password, you have their whole life. Like,
Absolutely.
if you can get into their phone, you have their entire life.
Absolutely. In this case, I'm like, okay, don't ever give your significant other your password to like.
Well, and if you do,
that freaks me out.
And then you break up with them via email, change it.
Yeah,
you got to change it.
That's a solid point. That is a solid point. And yeah, I changed like my Netflix passwords and stuff like that after. So In the spring of 2015, which is just a few months after Ricky broke up with Brenda, Ricky meets a woman by the name of Dr. Kendra Hatcher. Now, she was a successful pediatric dentist known for her warmth, her generosity, and her zest for life. So Kendra was originally from Illinois, and she excelled in dental school, and she volunteered on mission trips abroad. By May, she and Ricky were dating, and their connection was pretty instantaneous. Ricky later said, quote, "We were just really in sync right from the get-go," end quote. Their relationship seemed to progress very quickly. They discussed the future and even a small wedding fund. Kendra was thrilled and shared her excitement with friends and family. And that Labor Day weekend, the couple had planned to get away to Cancun. So they're moving very quickly. They've been dating for a few months, and they are starting to put away money for a wedding. And they're planning trips together. They're meeting each other's family. So they were going to go to Cancun, and then they were going to go to Kendra's hometown so Ricky could meet her parents. Because that's what you do when you're planning on marrying someone, you know?
Right.
So by all accounts, Kendra and Ricky were just happy. They had found love. They were building this life together. And Brenda was seeing all of this. She was seeing it in his messages, in his email accounts, in his calendar, everything that she's basically just cyber stalking him.
How long had they been broken up when he started dating Kendra?
Just like 2 or 3 months. Oof. So they broke up in February.
It's like within like 6 months or so that she's seeing him talking about getting married.
Yes.
Yikes.
Which you can imagine really hurts, which is why you shouldn't read your ex-boyfriend's messages. That's masochistic at this point.
Not meant for you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, as you can imagine, this news is devastating for Brenda. And by June, Ricky actually emails Brenda himself to let her know about this new relationship because he knew this was becoming very serious and that she was going to learn about this eventually. And he kind of knew it was pretty soon after the breakup. And so at this point, he's just trying to, I think, be respectful and also trying to be like, hey, I don't want to be as friendly as I was trying to be at the beginning. And with this, Brenda realized that these hopes of reconciling with Ricky, they were shattered at this point. She knew, if he's reaching out to me to let me know that he's with this other woman, like he is actually done. You know, he's not just playing games. Now, according to friends, Brenda's demeanor changed drastically over the summer. She became fixated on Kendra, the woman that she believed had stolen her future right out from under her. Now, a woman named Jennifer Escobar, which was Brenda's roommate at the time, recalled how Brenda was constantly angry about the relationship. She testified later, quote, "I kind of understood her anger, but at the same time, she was super obsessed with him," end quote. So there are red flags popping up for people who are in Brenda's life, who care about Brenda. They were like, we could kind of tell that the obsession was going to a weird place. It was going too far. So Brenda's jealousy soon escalated into stalking and scheming. She's monitoring Ricky's emails, but not just because she wants to know what Ricky's doing, but because she wants to know what Kendra's doing. She even tried to befriend Kendra under fake accounts on social media, and she was tracking their activities by following them on social media and then through Ricky's email accounts and things like that. When that wasn't enough, she began plotting direct action. In chilling conversations, Brenda attempted to recruit people to either harm or intimidate the couple.
Oh, wow.
So she reaches out to her cousin, who is a man named Moses Martinez, and he later testifies that Brenda offered him money to scare Kendra with a baseball bat.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Escobar, so that was her roommate, said Brenda proposed something even worse to her. She said that Brenda had proposed that she would give her drugs, $2,000, and even a car. And then in exchange, Escobar would attack Kendra for her. And she's later testified, quote, she just wanted to eliminate Kendra Hatcher or both of them, end quote. And by both, obviously, she means Kendra and Ricky.
Right.
So she's like, offering to her roommate, I'm going to pay you $2,000, give you drugs and a car, and I just need you to eliminate them. Terrifying.
And I just never understand the if I can't have him, nobody can mentality. Like,
why do you want him?
Didn't you get the ick when he sent you that email? Like, Did you not? But not only, I can understand, being upset, being jealous. I can understand wanting to look her up on Instagram and stalk her on her social media and the curiosity of it. But I cannot understand, I love him so much and I don't want her to be with him. So I'm just going to kill her, kill him, kill them both. I don't care. Like,
right. Like, no matter what you think he's done to you in your head, like, she had nothing to do with it, really.
No.
And there's a lot that they go into when I was reading about this case that, you know, it also didn't help that, like, Kendra was so beautiful. Like, she looks like a supermodel. She's so beautiful. And Brenda, she was a dental hygienist, but Kendra is a dentist and a super successful one at that. So it was like all of these little things that they added up to just, you know, it really felt like Kendra was constantly one-upping her on things, even though, you know, Kendra didn't even know who she was. Like, she wasn't.
I'm sure that made her mad.
Exactly.
And it's like, do you think that taking out somebody that's doing better than you is going to make you better? Like, you could just try and better yourself.
Exactly. And that's our advice to anyone listening. If you're feeling a little jelly over your ex, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
But where it becomes abnormal is when you start asking people to threaten them.
Yeah.
Okay? Ask for some help if you've been asking people to threaten your ex, please.
Yes.
So here's the thing is she's offering this to her cousin, to her roommate, and they're like, no, we want nothing to do with this. But still, this is revealing to them a dangerous mindset. And of course, they don't really do anything about it. It's not like they call police or call Ricky or Kendra to warn them. They just kind of, they're like, are you crazy? No. And they leave it at that.
Well, they probably think if I turn her down, it's over. She's, you know, they don't expect her to keep going and going.
Right, right. And that's why I think true crime stories are so important is because we learn a lesson. Like, this is not the only case where this happens.
No.
These people who are intent on, they do keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
And Brenda was a woman scorned. And as events would prove, she was willing to go to terrifying lengths to act on her obsession with Kendra and Ricky, really.
Buying a home used to feel like a complete headache. Listings here, pre-approval there, financing somewhere else. Now, Rocket is giving every home one address. Rocket.com. A single seamless homeownership platform to help you find, buy, sell, finance, and refinance your home. Everything you need, all under one roof. Visit Rocket.com. The new home for all things homeownership. Rocket. Own the dream.
At Sephora, we've got what you want because you're obsessed with your skin and we're obsessed with what it needs. Sephora has the best products to help you get beautiful, glowing, radiant skin. With an extensive, inclusive range of results-driven formulas and in-store beauty advisors to help you find exactly which are right for you, the best skincare is only at Sephora. Sephora, for all your skincare.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
So as summer turned into fall that year, Brenda Delgado set a deadly plan in motion. She enlisted 2 accomplices, Crystal Cortes, who was a 23-year-old single mother that she had met through a friend, and a man by the name of Kristopher Love, who was a 31-year-old small-time drug dealer. In exchange for their help, Brenda promised cash and drugs. Crystal was allegedly offered $500 to act as the driver, which whenever I hear this shit, $500, are you kidding me? You're going to help murder somebody for...
It's never enough. It's never enough. Like, I can't, you know, you see in the movies when there is a murder for hire, it's like $50,000, $30,000. It's always like $2,000 and a pack of gum or something, if that.
Right. And not that any amount would be worth murdering someone over. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But... And I do understand too, $500 to someone who makes $200,000 a year and is like filthy rich doesn't matter, but to a 23-year-old single mother, it probably matters more. But my point is like in my mind, you're putting $500 on a life, and it's just crazy to me that people will accept that. Now, Crystal wasn't actually going to be the one to kill Kendra, though. She was just offered $500 to be the getaway driver, while Kristopher would carry out the murder in exchange for money and narcotics. So to seal this deal, Brenda falsely claimed that she had cartel connections and access to large amounts of drugs. And so she told Kristopher that, hey, if you carry out this murder for me, I will get you connected with the cartel so you can get rich off of selling drugs instead of just making a couple $100 a week doing it. And with that, he was in. He believed her, and the plan was set. They were going to stage it as a robbery, kill Kendra, and get away clean.
They always think that.
Yep, they always do. So on the night of September 2nd, 2015, and you know what? I want to point out too, this is September 2nd of the same year. So Ricky and Brenda break up in February. Then in the spring, so I think either April or May, is when Kendra and Ricky start dating. So they've only been together for 5 or so months at this point, maybe.
They've only been broken up, him and Brenda, for like 7 months.
Right. It's like, girl, time heals all wounds. Give it some time.
Give it a year before you try to murder somebody.
Literally. So on September 2nd, 2015, this murder for hire plot became a reality. Security cameras at Kendra's apartment complex, which was Gables Park 17, captured a black Jeep Grand Cherokee entering the garage at 7:15 p.m. with Love and Cortes inside. Just before 7:42 p.m., Dr. Kendra Hatcher returned home, unaware of what awaited for her. Detective Eric Barnes told Oxygen Snapped, quote, there was no doubt that the individual was waiting for Dr. Hatcher. As soon as she pulled in, he began making his move, end quote. As Kendra got out of her car, or prepared to get out of her car, Love ambushed her with a .40 caliber handgun. A scream pierced the garage, followed by 2 gunshots. One witness recalled, quote, you heard screaming. It was pure fear. And then I heard pop, pop. The attack was over in seconds. Love had shot Kendra in the head at close range. Forensic evidence confirmed the execution-style killing. The bullet entered the top of her head and exited through her chin. Gunshot residue on her hands suggested she'd instinctively raise them above her head to shield herself. Love then grabbed Kendra's purse, meant to make the murder look like a robbery, and he ran to the awaiting Jeep where Crystal Cortes sped away, nearly hitting a resident in their frantic escape. So they're just making a whole, like, this is not a slick murder for hire where they're creeping in quietly and slowly. There's screaming, there's people in this garage, they're doing this, it's only 7:42 p.m., there's people around. And luckily, I'm glad they didn't hit the other person on their way out.
Yeah.
But really, the attack was over in seconds. They speed away, and what they don't realize is that they left behind some critical clues, specifically Kendra's phone that had fallen during the struggle and remained at the scene. So moments later, a passerby approached Kendra's body. They saw the blood and immediately called 911. Paramedics did arrive very quickly, but she was pronounced dead at the scene from the gunshot wounds to the head. So at first, the scene looked like a robbery gone wrong. Her purse was missing. It was very obvious. But detectives quickly sensed that something more sinister was afoot. The cold, precise manner of the shooting suggested it was personal. I mean, why would a robber shoot someone through the top of the head? It just seems like if they were struggling with you, they were fighting back, not trying to give you the purse, through the top of the head wouldn't be the easiest way to shoot them.
No.
Not at all. So investigators began to suspect that Kendra had been purposefully targeted and taking her purse was just a side thought. So as they combed the garage, they found bullet fragments and a dropped magazine near her body. The killers had fled so quickly that Love didn't even retrieve the magazine, which is going to help them very quickly identify what type of firearm was used in this. So surveillance footage and witnesses soon gave police a solid lead. Multiple cameras showed the black Jeep entering and exiting around the time of the shooting, and one captured the driver, a young woman, waiting in the car. So they've got her face on camera.
Wow.
So the next day, the Dallas police released images of the suspect vehicle and the driver to the public, asking for anyone who recognized either to come forward. And the pressure was on for Brenda Delgado and her crew of murderers. This whole carefully constructed plan and alibi that she had were already starting to fall apart behind the scenes before she even knew it. Because 2 days after the murder, a man named Jose Luis Ortiz contacted police in a panic. Because he saw that black Jeep on the news, and he called them and he said, that's my black Jeep.
Oh.
That is my car. And Jose tells investigators that on the night of Kendra Hatcher's death, he had lent his Jeep to a friend, Brenda Delgado.
Oh, my God.
And he had gone with Brenda to dinner at Chili's, which he
so
didn't
he was
realize.
her alibi.
He was her alibi. Brenda had asked him if she could loan his car to a friend and then they could go get dinner together. And she said that she was going to loan it to a friend who was going to use it to scare someone who was dating a man that she used to be involved with. But she did not tell him that the plan involved killing anyone. She framed it as an intimidation mission to get the woman to stay away from her ex-boyfriend. But in fact, when Jose first came forward, he was terrified, thinking that Brenda had set him up to take the fall for the murder.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, sounds like it.
Use your car. But I'm still like, dude, you think that she's going to use it to intimidate someone and you're just like, here's the keys?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like at least he was honest when he called police. He's like, I just thought they were going to beat somebody up or scare somebody. I didn't know they would actually shoot him.
I definitely think he should have called a lawyer before he made that phone call.
Yeah, but at least he told the truth.
Yes.
I'm glad he told the truth because
Absolutely.
this is, I think, a day or two after they released the footage to the public that he calls. So this breaks the case wide open. They now have a suspect. And with Brenda Delgado's name now in the mix, Dallas police brought her in for questioning. It was only a week since the murder, and Brenda played it cool under interrogation. Video of her police interview, later obtained by Oxygen Snapped, shows Brenda calmly denying any knowledge of Kendra or the crime. She told them, quote, "I've never seen her," end quote, which... This was like obviously just a flat out lie that was easy to prove wrong.
Right.
She did her best to appear shocked that an acquaintance of hers had been murdered because, you know, the police are like, "Oh, really? You don't know her? Because she's dating your ex-boyfriend." She's like, "Oh my gosh, like, how could I know? That's so crazy." Brenda had come prepared. She presented detectives with a receipt proving that she was at Chili's at the time of the shooting, dining with Jose as she had arranged. So basically, they bring her in for questioning, and they're like, "Yeah, so is this you driving the car? Like, did you have something to do with this?" She's like, pulls the receipt from Chili's out. She's like, got it ready, and she's like, "No, look at the time. I was at Chili's at that exact time."
Did they even tell her what time?
I don't know, to be honest with you, but I'm just like, Brenda, play it a little bit more slickly. Like, have the receipt rolled up, like folded up in a pants pocket at your house or something. Like,
right. Or like,
just have it
in
on
a
you
ball
so
in the
funny.
bottom of my purse. Like, oh, I think I have the receipt. I can prove it.
Oh my God. But true crime, like, I never take my receipts, and it makes me want to start taking receipts from places because it freaks me out.
Well, I pay with a card though. So I'm like, I have a bank statement at least.
That's true. But I don't know if it records the time. Nowadays, there's so many cameras everywhere, though. I feel like it's all good. They'll catch me on camera.
I got my location on. Track me.
Track me. Yeah, that's true. So she's come prepared with this alibi. And while it might have seemed convincing at first glance, investigators already knew that Brenda had borrowed the suspect Jeep that night. So they knew she had to be connected somehow. So they were like, okay, she wasn't the one in the Jeep. And they kind of already knew that from Jose.
And the Jeep belonged to the guy she's at dinner with. So like, come on, Brenda.
Exactly. So when Detective Barnes casually mentions the Jeep that was captured on camera, Brenda didn't miss a beat. She was prepared. So as soon as he asks about the Jeep, Brenda blurted out, quote, "I gave it to my friend Crystal," end quote. She's like, "I gave it to Crystal. Crystal had it. It was Crystal."
Hey, Crystal, like, you got $500 to take the risk. So that was a risk you took.
Like, come on. She just threw her right under the bus.
Right. Just pushed her. Yeah.
And this is why I just, like, almost every case we've ever covered about, I'm like, dude, criminals are such idiots. Mm-hmm. I think in order to be that bad of a person, you have to be somewhat of an idiot. Like,
yeah.
But
it's like the either extreme. Like, you're either somewhat of an idiot or you are so smart you think you're smarter than everybody else and you think you can get away with it. And
yeah, like some sort of like narcissistic tendencies or like sociopathic tendencies or something.
Yeah, I don't think this is that. I think this is the other one.
So with that, though, she says it was Crystal. And so police now turned their focus to Crystal, the young woman that Brenda had pointed to.
Does she think that they're not going to talk to Crystal? Does she think that Crystal is going to cover for her? Like, I'm like, it was your fault. You're the one that set it all up. Now you're like pointing police towards the exact people, and you think that they're not going to figure out what really happened?
Yeah, and you think they're not going to throw you right under the bus with them?
Exactly.
Like, come on. So Crystal was quickly located and brought in for an interview. At first, she spun a frantic lie. She claimed that she had no choice in the matter, that when she was in the parking garage, an unknown man had carjacked her at gunpoint and forced her to drive into that parking garage. And she insisted that she was a victim too.
Oh my God.
Because she was a terrified single mom who only complied because a gun was being pointed at her while her son was in the back of the car with her. And their lives were being threatened, and she couldn't risk her son's life. And she didn't want to do this, but she was forced to. And so the detectives listened. They listened on quietly, but the story did not hold up under scrutiny because the surveillance video clearly showed that there was no child present in the backseat of the Jeep, like she said. So this is all bullshit. And rather than trying to flee when the gunman exited the vehicle, because she's saying that, this gunman gets into the car, like points the gun at her, tells her what to do, and then he then gets out, shoots Kendra, and then gets back in. But instead of trying to get away when he leaves the vehicle to shoot Kendra, she just sits there and waits for him patiently. Like just patiently waiting, hands on the wheel, lets him get right back into the car after killing a woman, and then drives away with him.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
She is just like lying through her teeth about everything that is so easily proven false. And they knew that Crystal was no kidnapped bystander. So,
well, and was there a connection between what was the name of the shooter?
Kristopher Love.
Kristopher Love. Was there a connection between Crystal and Kristopher? That could be proven?
The only connection between them, from what I could find, was Brenda asking them to do this. It wasn't like they had known each other or like they were a couple or anything like that. So, confronted with these discrepancies, Crystal Cortes broke down and changed her story. She now confessed that she did knowingly participate in the crime, but she tried to minimize her role and her knowledge of what was going to happen. So, yes. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that they were going to shoot somebody even though we had a gun. So she admitted, yes, she was the getaway driver for the man who killed Kendra, but she claimed that she thought they were only going to rob Kendra, not murder her. According to this revised story, Brenda had asked her to help steal Kendra's purse and nothing more. She said that the motive for this was that Kendra and Ricky were supposed to go on this trip to Cancun, and so Brenda wanted to steal the purse so she would not have her ID and therefore could not get on her flight to Cancun with Ricky. So she was, the whole story, the whole cover story now, the third cover story is that they were just trying to stop Kendra from going on vacation with Ricky.
You need a passport to go to Mexico, and nobody, like, who's carrying their passport in their purse all the time?
Literally no one. And I also learned from another case that we covered. It's the disappearance of Caitlin Dennison, who was a 19-year-old girl from Nevada who is still missing to this day, by the way.
I listened to that episode, actually.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, her story like breaks my heart because it's just one of those stories where her case, the police just didn't, in my opinion, it seems like they did not care at all about what happened to this girl, and her family still has no answers. So if you're from Nevada or Texas, especially, because that's kind of where the story takes place, check that out. But in that story, she flies from Nevada to Texas, and she had actually forgotten her ID.
I have to tell you this. I meant to tell you this before, but when I was listening to that episode, because you were like so passionate about like, if you know anything, you know, and I'm sitting there like, I live in Texas, I might know something. And then I was like, you are nowhere even close to, where was it? El Paso? Was it El Paso?
No, it was something with an M.
Oh, Midland. It was
Midland. Okay, thank you.
I was like, I've never even stepped foot in Midland. I don't know anything. But I was really like, think, Kristen, you might know something because you live in Texas.
Good. That makes me feel like I did my job.
You did.
That makes me feel like I did my job well.
It was the same feeling I get when I'm like traveling in another country and I'm like, I swear I saw somebody I know. And then I'm like, you're in Italy. That's not the girl you went to high school with. Like that. It was like that same feeling of like, I'm certain I'm involved. And then no.
I get that. I lived abroad briefly and I had that all the time. Like that I would see someone and like it was that split second of like, oh, I know that person. Then I'm like, wait, literally, no, I don't.
Literally, that you cannot.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in Caitlin's case, she flew from Nevada to Texas and she had forgotten her ID. So at the airport, basically what they did was like, I don't know, they called her back.
Yeah, this happened to my friends where I went to DC in March. Like they just pull you aside and ask you questions, but not on an international flight. Like she was not going to get on a flight to Cancun, or she wasn't going to get into the country at least, but she'd need her passport, and her passport's like not in her purse. But yeah, you can get on a plane without your driver's license. You just gotta. My friend, actually, I had her on the podcast, and she went through the whole thing because she worked for TSA, and I was like, "What do?" And she's like, "They call somebody on a phone, and they ask you questions like, did you grow up on this street or what street? Like, you know, those questions that are asked to verify your identity sometimes. You ever lived on the, like, they're asking you those things. They're having to like test every single piece of your like carry-on bags. Mm-hmm. And then you can get on the flight. And it takes forever, and make sure you get to the airport early. But yeah, you can get on.
Yeah. So,
but not on the international flight.
No,
you have to have a passport.
And the thing is too, is that like we're going to learn, Brenda goes back and forth to Mexico. So like she knows too that you need the passport. It's not like she's never been out of the country, so she like doesn't realize.
Or that this is pre 9/11 or something where you could just like walk across with your ID. Like it's 2015.
But this is their ingenious story to prove, or at least Crystal's, to prove that, oh, like she had no idea they were going to hurt her. They just thought, oh, she literally said, quote, he was just going to jack her. That's it. I don't know this dude, end quote. Like, that's what she told the police, is like, oh, they were just going to steal her purse, nothing more. I don't even know this guy, whatever. So Crystal insisted of the shooter, whom she refused to name. Like, she will not give them his name at first, at least. So in this telling, Crystal portrayed herself as this reluctant participant who believed the plan was just the simple theft. And then when the gunshots rang out, that's the only time she realized that, oh shit, this went so much further than I had planned, which, again, bullshit story. Mm-hmm. So detectives keep pressing her. They're like, why? This is kind of where they get that story out of her. Like, why would they want to rob her? She gives her this whole story about them going to Mexico, and she says, quote, I think they were going back and forth between the same guy, end quote. And that quote killed me, because no, they weren't. Ricky was just going forth with Kendra. He was not going back to Brenda at all. It's not like he was, you know, playing both of them at the same time or anything. It's just that Brenda wanted to believe that.
Right.
So with her confession of at least being the driver and being part of this, all of these pieces were starting to fit together. And Crystal further admitted that Brenda had promised to pay her for helping by giving her the $500, which she, of course, you know, was a young single mom and she was struggling financially. So it was very tempting. And investigators discovered a damning piece of evidence on Crystal's phone, which was a photo taken the day after the murder showing 5 $100 bills folded into the shape of the heart. This was the $500 that Brenda had paid her to participate in the murder.
Oh my God. And this has happened. You've murdered somebody and you're like proudly taking pictures of your $500.
Yes. Yep. And it's just like in the shape of a heart too. There's something about that that just makes it even worse. Detective Barnes later confirmed to Oxygen that Crystal eventually divulged, quote, she admitted that Brenda paid her to be the getaway driver. So at that point, we had enough to arrest Cortes that night for the murder. So on September 4th, 2015, they officially placed Crystal under arrest for her connection, even though she's still saying that she didn't know it was supposed to be a murder. But having Crystal secured, authorities still face the challenge of trying to tie Brenda Delgado directly to the murder plot. Because while Crystal's words implicated Brenda as the mastermind, there wasn't concrete evidence yet that this was intended to be a murder and not a robbery. Because, you know, they can still kind of argue in court, oh, you know, Kristopher Love kind of went rogue and that's not what we wanted him to do. But Detective Barnes later recalled, quote, unfortunately, I didn't have enough evidence to place Brenda in custody for the murder. So the only thing that I had to work with was an unpaid traffic ticket, end quote. Gotta love it. I love when they just arrest people on an unpaid traffic ticket and then get them for murder. Amazing. So
get them for whatever you can. Get them off the street.
Exactly. And this was a very strategic move. So police arrest Brenda on the outstanding traffic warrant, and this just allowed them to detain her briefly while they continued building a case against her, because they were a little nervous that she was going to flee to Mexico.
Yeah.
So Brenda was held. She's questioned further, but at that point, she's maintaining her innocence, and with little choice, the authorities soon had to release her on bail for the traffic offense. As you can imagine, they can't really hold people that long on a traffic ticket. So meanwhile, they release her, and the only thing they can think to do next is to pursue the last remaining piece of the puzzle, which is the unidentified gunman. Because Brenda says she had no idea about any of this. Crystal says, oh, I didn't know who this guy was, so I can't tell you his name. So she says that she doesn't know his real name, but she was told to call him Lamar, which was a nickname. They couldn't find anyone by the name of Lamar, but she did provide them with a crucial lead that eventually led to his identification. Basically, she tells them, okay, all I know about him is his nickname was Lamar, but that's not his real name. He drives a Chrysler Sebring that was blue, and she also had a phone number for him. So using that phone number, police traced a suspect residence in Dallas where, sure enough, a blue Sebring was parked outside. The car was registered to Kristopher Love, a 31-year-old man with a history of robbery and drug offenses. And surveillance and phone records later showed that Love's cell phone had pinged near Kendra's apartment in the days leading up to the murder, indicating that he had stalked the area beforehand. So with all of that, on September 30th, 2015, just under a month after Kendra's death, a Dallas SWAT team moved in and arrested Kristopher Love. They nabbed him on an unrelating outstanding warrant for a parole violation out of Tennessee. And again, this is kind of just a tactic that they use to get dangerous suspects off the street quickly before they could talk to him and kind of prove their case in the murder conviction.
Right.
So in Love's blue Sebring, officers found the smoking gun. Literally, they found the .40 caliber pistol hidden in a compartment in the car, and ballistics tests later confirmed that it was the very weapon used to shoot Kendra Hatcher. So with Love in custody and the murder weapon recovered, the case against Brenda's hitman was pretty much ironclad at this point. So, under interrogation, Kristopher Love opened up about his dealings with Brenda Delgado. He recounted how Brenda had approached him through acquaintances and enticed him with grand promises. She had boasted about connections to Mexico's infamous drug cartels and, quote, promised to pay him in both drugs and money, end quote. And that's according to Detective Barnes. And in exchange, Love confirmed that his job was to murder Kendra Hatcher. So this whole story about, oh, this was a robbery gone wrong and Kristopher Love went rogue, he's now said, no, Brenda asked me to kill her.
To the shock of no one, I'm certain.
Yeah. The police were like, yeah, thank you for confirming what we already knew, but they needed him to, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
So at this point, this is around October of 2015, so this is all happening very quickly. The Dallas Police Department had cracked this case wide open with that confession, and the murder of Dr. Kendra Hatcher was officially solved. So they knew Brenda Delgado had orchestrated this conspiracy of deadly jealousy, enlisting Crystal Cortes as a getaway driver and Kristopher Love as the hitman. Police publicly named Brenda Delgado as the alleged mastermind and issued a warrant for her arrest on capital murder charges. There was just one problem with this. Brenda had vanished.
Of course.
Because she had been released on that bail. And you know what? I realized I forgot to add this to my script because I had read it kind of once I got past this part. But I did want to mention that after Kendra was killed and those photos of the driver and the Jeep were released, Ricky actually called police and he said, the girl driving that car looks like my ex-girlfriend, Brenda Delgado. Which is funny because it wasn't her.
Right.
It was Crystal Cortes. And they don't look, it's not, I don't know. I saw pictures of them. You know, I don't know how grainy this footage was, but they don't look that much alike to me. And so part of me wonders
he knew.
Like, if that was
he
like
knew.
a confirmation bias in his head. Like he suspected that she had something to do with it. And so then when he saw grainy footage that just was of a manic woman driving the car, it was confirmation bias, like, oh, she did do this. So for police, that wasn't really enough because they felt like it didn't really look like her. But then once Jose had come forward saying that Brenda had lent him the vehicle and all of that, they were like, oh my God, she was in on it. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of a important and crazy point. But that just, to me, tells me that he knew she was involved in this somehow.
It makes me wonder why he really sent not the breakup email, but the email letting her know about Kendra. Like, was it really just because he wanted to break it to her easy and let her know so she didn't find out from somebody else? Or was it like a preemptive, like he knows that she is obsessed, like he knows more than we thought he did, and he's trying to mitigate anything? I'm sure he didn't expect this to happen, but like,
oh, of course,
you know, any issues that might arise if she just found out.
I feel like because remember, she was using all of his information from his emails and his calendar and stuff to randomly just happen to be in the places he was going to be. And so I'm sure he caught on to that. Like, I don't know 100%. But if he caught on to that, maybe he's saying like, look, I know you're doing this hoping that we're going to get back together, but now I'm seeing someone else and I'm very happy and I want you to know that I'm with her and we are not getting back together, which, you know, may have been the case. So, but yeah, it's just crazy. And my heart breaks for him because I not feel any guilt. In my opinion, this is not his fault at all, but I'm sure that he does. And I feel so bad for him.
Well, anytime you can say like, if it weren't for their relationship, she would still be alive, even though it's not their relationship's fault. I think it's impossible to not take that on and feel so guilty about it.
Yeah.
Even when the situation is like, you did nothing wrong by having a relationship and the situation is so far out of your control, but that's really hard.
Yeah, exactly. My heart breaks. And he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life with Kendra. So at this point, Brenda has vanished after she was let out on bail for that minor traffic charge. And she actually fled Texas and went on the run. She cut off all contact with family and friends. She boarded a bus and she slipped across the border into Mexico, where she was born. So for months, Brenda had evaded capture until April of 2016. So at this time, Delgado's still a fugitive, and the FBI adds her to the 10 most wanted list. And she's actually, this is a fun fact, she's only the 9th woman ever to earn that distinction, being on the 10 most wanted list, which tells you something. It's usually men on there. So they put her on the 10 most wanted list, and a $100,000 reward was offered for information leading to her arrest. So this international manhunt pays off pretty quickly because on April 8th, 2016, so 8 days into her being on this list, Mexican authorities, in conjunction with the FBI, find Brenda Delgado in Mexico and arrest her. So Brenda, you can't get away with, nowadays, with all of the security cameras and records, it's like you have to be a genius to get away with this stuff, and she is very obviously not. So after some lengthy legal procedures, Mexico did agree to extradite Brenda back to Texas in October of 2016, but only on the condition that she would not face the death penalty. Most countries that don't have the death penalty, if they have an extradition treaty with the United States and that person is being extradited to a state that does have the death penalty for a crime that could warrant the death penalty, most of these countries will not extradite unless we agree to not give that person the death penalty.
Because it's barbaric, but
right.
Whatever.
So they say, well, extradite her, you can't give her the death penalty, and this agreement is made. So by late 2016, all 3 key players in the plot against Kendra were in custody, and what remained were some trials to bring them to justice. Now, we already know Brenda's not getting the death penalty, but that was open for some of the others. So justice did come slowly but steadily in her case. Prosecutors opted to try Kristopher Love, the hitman, first. In October 2018, Love went on trial in Dallas County for capital murder. The evidence against him was overwhelming. They had the surveillance videos, the phone records, the ballistics, his own incriminating statements, and the jury found Love guilty of Kendra's murder. During the penalty phase of his trial, Kendra's family testified to the pain and devastation caused by her loss. Her older sister, Ashley Turner, spoke through tears about their Midwestern upbringing and the shock of such a brutal crime. Ashley told the Dallas News, quote, "This doesn't happen in Central Illinois. We didn't know evil like this existed," end quote. That breaks my heart. And what's scary is that this stuff does happen everywhere. You know,
right.
It happens more. Yes, there are places, you know, certain areas like New York City's more dangerous than, you know, the suburbs of Cleveland where I live.
Fallacy that New York is one of the safest cities. I did.
What?
Yeah. I was looking into how dangerous is New York to like make a point for an episode I was writing. And it was like in the 80s, it was crazy. But they have done a lot to fix up the city, make it safer. It's now it's one of the safer big metropolitan, like for a metropolitan area. It's relatively safe compared to its peers. Now, some people would say that that's because they're not reporting crimes the same that they used to, but I don't know about that. So, but yeah, it's safer than it's not one of the most dangerous cities in America.
Dang, I've definitely used that 10 times throughout episodes.
It's not like New York in the 80s.
Yeah, sorry, in the 80s. Well, because I always use that, especially when we're talking about other countries and like bad things going on in other countries. I'm always like, look, this does not represent the country as a whole. There are dangerous parts of lots of places, and like, you know, there's dangerous parts of the U.S. for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway,
use
okay.
like Memphis, most dangerous city.
What?
Yeah, Detroit.
Detroit's a good one.
St.
Detroit's-
Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with
Places you
Detroit
wouldn't-
moving forward.
You wouldn't expect. Yeah.
All I know is I go to New York City and I've gone there a couple times like by myself to go see like, art shows and stuff. And I definitely am like, I don't ride the subway after it gets dark.
No, I don't ride the
Stuff
subway
like
after it gets
that.
dark either. But other than that, I always feel safe. Like I always feel safe. Downstairs, it can get a little sketchy, but up
Yes,
in the
for
world,
sure.
I've always felt very safe when I go. I go pretty often, but I'm going again in a couple months. But anyways, I do
Ooh,
love
fun.
New York.
I'm jealous. I haven't been in a while.
I love it.
So, on October 31st, 2018, the jury sentenced Kristopher Love to death for his role as the gunman. It was a rare outcome. He became the first person sent to Texas's death row from Dallas County since 2013. So, in the last 5 years, he was the only person from Dallas sent to death row.
Wow.
As of this recording, Kristopher Love still remains on death row to this day. He is obviously appealing his sentence whenever he gets the chance, but it's just something of note that, you know, he got the death penalty for this.
Like, I don't believe in the death penalty. I'm very much against it. But also, you live in Texas. You shot somebody in the head. What leg do you think you have to like?
I agree. My thing with the death penalty is if we could carry it out with 100% perfection.
It has to be 100%.
We know 1,000% every single person that has ever gotten the death penalty and has been killed by the state was guilty because these crimes that they're being sentenced for are horrific. I'm fine with that. The problem is it is literally impossible for that to happen that way.
If we raise the burden to beyond a reasonable doubt to you're 100% certain, there's video footage, like it's 100%, then yes. But I think beyond a reasonable doubt I think that's not a high enough burden for an execution.
I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. So meanwhile, Crystal Cortes had made a deal to avoid a possible life sentence because she was not facing the death penalty. She was just facing a life sentence. But she makes this deal, and in exchange for her full cooperation and testimony, prosecutors allowed Crystal to plead guilty to a reduced charge. So in October 2018, around the same time that Love was convicted, Cortes pleaded guilty to murder and accepted a 35-year prison sentence. Now, this plea bargain turned Crystal into the state's witness, obligating her to testify against both Love and Brenda Delgado. So at Love's trial, Crystal admitted that Brenda paid her $500 for her part and described how the murder was supposed to look like a botched robbery. So at this point, once she takes this plea deal, because remember, up until this point, she was saying, I didn't know that he was going to kill her.
Right.
I just thought they were going to steal her purse. But at this point, she's finally telling the truth. And she said, no, I knew it was a murder and we were supposed to make it look like a botched robbery, like it was random. So defense attorneys tried to attack Crystal's credibility, pointing out that she had a lot to gain by testifying because she's getting this reduced sentence. Love's attorneys argued that Crystal's plea deal, which allowed her to avoid the capital murder charge, was this enormous incentive for her to cooperate with whatever the prosecution wanted her to say. So they're then pointing out, well, hey, she's been telling one story the whole time that it was supposed to be just a robbery and it went wrong. But now she's saying that Kristopher Love purposefully planned ahead to kill Kendra.
Hasn't Kristopher Love been saying that this whole time? Didn't he say
Yes.
that from day one? Are these
Literally,
his attorney? Is this his trial or Brenda? This is Brenda's trial.
This is still
Christopher's
Love's
trial? And
yes.
Okay. Well, all
I
the
backed it
tapes
up a
to
little
what
bit.
your client said, because wouldn't that trump what this witness, like you're trying to call her a liar when
But
your
you
client
know
said the
what?
same thing?
That's what the defense attorneys, they are just scrounging.
I mean, what
like,
else are you going to do? You got to do something.
is
You got to
like
try something.
What's the suit from The Incredibles, like the stretchy one? Like
Elastigirl.
they're elastigirling, stretching this evidence that they don't have to prove that he's innocent.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Emily always like to say, you're going to pull a muscle stretching that far. Like, for real, be careful.
100%.
So despite these arguments back from the defense attorneys, Crystal's core story remained consistent with the evidence, and her testimony would also prove crucial in the final trial of Brenda Delgado herself. So Brenda actually didn't go on trial until June 2019, which was nearly 4 years after Kendra's murder. And she finally faces a jury, and the trial drew intense media attention. Here was a woman accused of orchestrating the cold-blooded assassination of her romantic rival, a scenario more reminiscent of a thriller novel than of real life. At least that's what we all like to believe. Because that's the thing that is so terrifying, is like, I don't know. I think Kendra knew about Brenda and knew who she was. She knew that she was kind of stuck up on Ricky, but it's like, you would never expect, even if your boyfriend has a crazy ex, you never expect that she's going to fucking murder you.
No, you don't.
Excuse my French. Like, it is so crazy. Like, you just, that doesn't sound like real life.
I'm even thinking about it from Brenda's side. And I just think about, like, I couldn't imagine a world where I make the moves that she's making, where I make the choices that she's making. Like, it's like something you like bitch about with your girlfriends, like your ex's new girlfriend, and you might like talk a lot of shit and whatever, but to actually make moves to murder her, I can't even wrap my head around that being a real thing. Even though I listen to these stories all the time, I cover these stories all the time, and I still oftentimes just can't believe like it's real life.
That's how I feel too. And sometimes I think, for me at least, like, the more I dive deep, I feel like I'm becoming, I hate to say it, like somewhat numb to them. I think you have to, otherwise you would literally go crazy yourself. Like, I mean, I've had times when I've been researching cases and I'm literally like sitting there in tears and like,
oh yeah, there have been several that I've like really gotten very emotional over and attached over, and especially with cases like these kind of cases piss me off so much, because it's like, the cases that are always like, and for what? Like, and for what? You murdered her, for what? Now you're all in jail. Now all your lives are ruined. And hers is over. And for fucking what? Like, for nothing.
Literally nothing. For literally nothing.
Literally nothing.
It's just like, that's why I like telling these stories of like these people just being idiots, because I hope that someone who has a couple of screws loose in their head listens to it, and so then when they get in the same situation, they're like, maybe no, I probably can't get away with that. That's probably
you're definitely not gonna get away. And I think it's one thing when it's like a spur of the moment thing, and don't misunderstand me. I think crime of passion defenses are bullshit, but I do think it's like a different thing when it's a sudden thing. When you have planned it out like this, like you made so many choices and for so long kept this choice of like, yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to make this happen. I'm going to spend money to make this happen. That it's like, now, like, and then nobody gets anything. Everybody is screwed. And you've ruined her life. You've ended her life. You've ruined your life. You've ruined their lives.
She was so intent on this that before asking Crystal, who finally said yes, she had asked two other people, like, why are you not thinking that, hey, maybe if this girl then actually gets murdered, those two other people are going to be like, oh, well, obviously it was Brenda. I should probably tell somebody that. Like, you're just assuming that they're bad enough people that they're going to like keep a secret for you. I just think that's crazy. It's just like you have left this trail of evidence. I don't know.
It's so stupid.
But she's got the Chili's receipt, so it's fine. She's going to get away with it.
I mean, just like bust it right here. This is where I was. Oh, you want to know where I was? Bam, receipt.
We didn't
even tell you what day it was, ma'am.
Literally. So, sorry. This is what I do every time I get on a tangent. I lose my place.
Same.
So prosecutors painted Brenda as a jilted ex consumed by envy who methodically planned Kendra's demise when she couldn't win Ricky back. They outlined the entire saga, from Brenda's cyber stalking and failed attempts to recruit others, to the hiring of Love and Cortes, to Brenda's flight from justice and running from the police, trying to run to Mexico, which, you know what, even though she got caught, it did kind of work out for her, because now she's not sitting on death row. Yeah. So jurors heard from key witnesses like Ricky Paniagua himself, who recounted the uncomfortable encounters with Brenda after their breakup and described how happy he was with Kendra. They heard Jennifer Escobar detail Kendra's talk of eliminating Kendra and how Brenda attacked Ricky's every move. And they listened to Crystal Cortes as she took the stand once more, this time against Brenda, to describe the full conspiracy that they hatched. Crystal testified, quote, probably 2 weeks after I met Brenda, we started planning this murder, end quote. Why do you trust someone to keep a secret as big as murdering someone for you after 2 weeks of meeting them? Like, I don't understand it. But
it's a confidence that, yeah. And it also, I wonder if part of it is like them trying to like normalize it to themselves. Like, this isn't as big of a deal as it is. You know, this isn't that big of a deal. And that's why I can tell this person they're not going to say anything because it's not that big of a deal. I wonder if like that's part of it. I don't know.
Which is just like a scary world to live in, that people are thinking those thoughts.
I think there are a lot of people, like Kristopher Love, I think definitely is one of those people that just doesn't.
He's like, oh, I'm going to get something out of this. Sure, I'll kill her.
I'll shoot her in the head. No problem. Walked up to her and shoot her. Like, I would hope that would be a lot harder to like actually pull the trigger for some people. But
yeah.
But he was a drug addict, right? Like he was a drug
dealer at the very least. Okay. But I don't know.
Well, no excuses.
I'm sure he was using drugs too, but I guess I don't have that explicitly stated. But yeah, this, like we're saying, this was just like a chilling statement to the court. Brenda Delgado had set a murder plot in motion within mere days of befriending Crystal. Brenda's defense team tried to sow doubt, suggesting that Crystal Cortes was just trying to save herself and that the prosecution's case was all circumstantial. They emphasized that Brenda wasn't even at the crime scene. She was at Chili's, and there was no direct evidence that she pulled the trigger. And it's like,
well, we know she didn't pull the trigger. She's not on trial for pulling the trigger.
Exactly. And she's the only connection between these two people and Kendra Hatcher. That's
in the car. And them in the car.
Exactly. And the car. She's at Chili's with the guy who owns the car. And she's just sitting there eating like sizzling fajitas while she knows exactly what is happening.
Yeah. With the guy whose car it is. Like.
Exactly. But as you probably know, being from Texas, under Texas law, a person who conspires to commit capital murder is considered just as, or can be considered just as guilty as the one who fires the gun. Because that was kind of the argument, is like, this is a capital murder charge, but she wasn't the actual one who carried out the crime. But it's a murder for hire.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So the mountain of evidence, the emails, the phone records, the witness accounts, and Brenda's own incriminating actions.
Please tell me that they pulled up the breakup email and like had somebody read it on the stand. Like,
oh yeah, of course. I mean, they go deep into all of the accounts that she had access to and the calendars, and like, honestly, Kristen, if we were covering this with just me and Emily, like, I do this every time I do like a crossover episode. I pick a case and I'm like, okay, I've got to keep it succinct. I don't want to talk at someone who doesn't know me that well for 2 hours. Once I dived into this, I'm like, I might come back to this case in a year or two and do like a 5-parter, because I could talk for an hour and a half just about like all of the weird casual run-ins she accidentally had with Ricky after the breakup, like that kind of stuff. So if you guys are actual listeners of True Crime Creepers, and this is the first time you're hearing of me and Emily, who is obviously not here today, just be ready for the deep dives into the drama, because I do live for the drama a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So all of this evidence together, it's just a mountain, and it convinces the jury very easily, I think, that Brenda was indeed the puppet master of this entire deadly scheme. And it did not take them long to reach a verdict. They only deliberated for about 30 minutes before finding Brenda Delgado guilty of capital murder. So by law, because of the terms of her extradition, she was spared the death penalty, and instead, the judge immediately sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Do you know, I've heard cases where they had that deal, they made that deal with whatever country it was, and then did not adhere to the deal. And it's like, what are they going to do about it? Like,
yeah, I mean, but that just makes you think, well, maybe they won't extradite the next person that, right. I don't know.
I guess that is true. Then the next time they won't agree to a deal because you don't follow through. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So when she was sentenced to life in prison, Brenda Delgado was only 36 years old. So this just goes back to what you were saying. For what?
For what? Your whole life is over.
For what? Your whole life is over.
For $500.
You know who I feel for is Crystal Cortes' son. She had a young son. She was a single mother. I don't know kind of what.
Maybe he's better off, honestly. Like,
I really hope that's
hopefully
the case.
He is somewhere great.
I hope he had family to take care of him, and yeah.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hello, Nigel here. As an owl, I love to be awake all night, but allergy sufferers like you probably don't feel the same. So take Zysol at night to relieve allergies while you sleep. Then wake up fully refreshed for a more productive day. Zysol works fast and offers 24-hour continuous relief from sneezing, runny nose, itchy watery eyes, and itchy nose and throat, so you can enjoy doing the things you love all day long. Be Wisol. Take Zysol at night. Use as directed. Starts working in 45 minutes.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender-Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Yeah. But in the end, all three conspirators face the consequences of their heinous actions. Kristopher Love sits on death row, appealing his sentence, but held to account as the trigger man. Crystal Cortes, now in her early 30s, will remain in prison for decades, with a possible release in her 50s if she behaves well in prison. And Brenda Delgado, the woman whose jealousy set this plot in motion, will never walk free again. The murder of Dr. Kendra Hatcher shocked the Dallas community and gained national infamy due to its disturbing blend of love and betrayal. Kendra's friends and family continue to mourn a life cut tragically short. They remember her not for how she died, but for how she lived. She was a compassionate dentist, a devoted sister and daughter, a woman who radiated joy and was just living her life to the absolute fullest. She had just fallen in love with a man that she wanted to marry. She was about to introduce him to her family for the first time. But she was murdered in a senseless and horrific way. And the way that she died will forever haunt those who knew her. As Kendra's sister tearfully told the court, we didn't know evil like this existed. And that's kind of the thing, is a lot of these stories we cover is there are red flags that you see with these people, but they snowball and they slowly over time, they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. But there are also people whose actions and behaviors stay with those small red flags. Like, they're not perfect, they have faults, but they never snowball into this violence. But I just think it's something to keep in mind and be aware of, that if you're seeing a lot of little like concerning behaviors, you need to be on alert for, are these behaviors getting bigger over time? Because in this case, this snowballed into an evil that took the form of a jealous ex-girlfriend who refused to let go. And in doing so, it destroyed many lives, including her own life.
Yeah.
So the story of Kendra Hatcher's murder, it just serves as a grim reminder of how obsession can turn deadly, and how justice, though delayed, ultimately prevailed in this case, but it's not much of a consolation for an entire life.
That never does it for me. Like, I'm always glad, like, I don't want murderers to get away with it. I would prefer them to have not murdered in the first place and go on living their lives. And then the victim also. I think about all of the ripple effects of these victims. Like, she's this dentist, she's in this community. My mom's dentist died suddenly a couple of years ago. I mean, she was sick, she wasn't murdered. And it still had a really big impact on my mom. And I'm sure all of her patients who like went to go to their appointment and found out that their dentist had died suddenly and were like heartbroken. My mom's still very upset about it. She hadn't even been going to her that long, maybe a couple of years.
And she was a pediatric dentist. So most of her patients were children.
Yeah.
I don't know, how often kids are going to the dentist. It's been a long time since I was a kid and I don't have any kids. But
I mean, some are going to be going more
often. Imagine explaining to your
others.
child what happened to their dentist. Like, their dentist picture is all over the news, and they're like, "Oh, what happened to Dr. Hatcher?"
That's terrible. And yes, her family and like her circle and how devastated they are, but it goes out like so much wider than that to her patients and just everybody. And you've changed all these people's lives for the worse, and now you get to sit in prison. And
yep,
like,
it's not worth it. It's not worth it to hurt
it's
people
so stupid.
ever.
There was nothing that was going to make it be worth it. Like, he was never going to go back to you because his girlfriend was murdered. Like, that was never going to happen.
No, exactly.
So, it's so bizarre.
And the fact that he obviously thought she had something to do with it by the fact that he called police saying he thought Crystal Cortes in the picture of the car was her. So it's like
I did look up their picture. I could see it. I could kind of see it. If it's like, because I've seen the pictures of people in their cars when they're driving, like from security cameras, and putting her in that spot. There's usually like some kind of visor right here. And I can see, like, yes, they have like semi-similar face shapes. Their noses are kind of similar. They both point
You're
up.
right about the noses for sure.
I
And
kind
they
of thought,
do-
like when I was looking at the mugshots, I kind of was wondering, like, is maybe one of these not a mugshot and it's her just, and so she looks different but I was like, no, it's both of their mugshots. But I was like, maybe this one of Crystal isn't a mugshot and it's actually just a different picture of her. And so she looks worse in the mugshot. But no, it's just both of them, and Crystal took a better mugshot.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Image,
massive
I kinda
coincidence
get
that
it.
she kind of resembles her.
But I also just think that she just has dark hair and dark eyes. Like,
Yeah.
they both have dark hair and dark eyes. So if it's so grainy that you can't really tell who it is, the fact that your mind
goes to, no,
it,
absolutely. I still think
that
like,
shows you, because like that would be my last thought about any of my ex-boyfriends. Even if it kind of looked like them, I wouldn't think, oh, I think it's this person.
Yeah.
Like, I would be like, that's weird, same hair color or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's some
Yeah.
confirmation bias going on there.
I was also thinking about like Crystal's sentence and how people thought like it maybe was a little lenient. But I was thinking like, I feel like out of the three of them, Crystal is the one where she wasn't necessary. Like Brenda and Kristopher Love were like, without them, the murder would never have happened. But if Crystal wasn't there, somebody else could easily have taken that place, or they could have done it without a getaway driver. He could have been his own getaway driver, you know?
Yeah, that was my thought too.
Yeah. Like she didn't have to be involved. So I don't hate that she's going to maybe serve 20 years. Like I think 20 years is a good sentence for what she did, for driving a car and getting paid $500 and knowing about a murder, but not like doing it. I think 20 years is, I'm okay with that. As long
I think
as
it was 35.
But you said she was going to get out maybe at 55. She could maybe get out at 50. Good behavior.
Because she was 23 at the time that it happened.
Oh, I thought she was 36 at the time that it happened.
No, that was Brenda.
Oh.
That was Brenda.
Okay.
So, I mean,
God, I don't think the
decades in
sentence was
prison-
lenient at all. I think 35 years is perfectly acceptable.
I agree. I think
that's double life. Life is 15
I mean,
years.
that's longer than she had been alive at the time.
And that's longer than most men get for killing their wives.
Yep.
This also reminds me of, speaking of cyber stalkers, we covered this case a while back about Dave Krupa and Carrie Farver. Have you heard of this case?
Girl, you know I listened to the episodes.
It is so wild. It started with a breakup just like this one and ended with like a years-long case of stalking, impersonation, and a woman who seemed to just vanish into thin air. Like, it's really crazy. We originally aired it as a two-parter, but recently we re-released it as like one full episode, so it's just really easy to binge in one go. So you guys should check that out if you
go to their feed. And I don't know.
I think
if
it's
you guys...
called Cyber Stalker, and it came out.
Okay.
We re-released it as a single episode like a few months back. So
I remember listening to it as a two-parter. So it is a... I don't want to say too much, but you will be set for this one.
Crazy. We released it because they came out with a documentary on it recently, and I was like, oh, good time to just drop this there in one part.
People
You know,
will be searching for it.
yeah, exactly. And you know, it's so funny you did this case. I'm so glad you did this case because I had heard this case like a long time ago. Couldn't remember anything about it except for Dallas and a parking garage and a hot girlfriend. Like that's all I remembered. Mm-hmm. And I'd been trying to find it because I remembered it being so interesting when I heard it. And I'd been trying to find it. And I could never find, I'm like, that's not, like, I could never find the case that I was thinking of. And I know this was it. And I was like, oh my God, I've been wanting to cover this. Excellent. This is great.
Good. I've read your mind.
You did.
I've read your mind.
You did. I was like, oh my God, this is the parking lot case.
This is one, like, I won't revisit it for a while, but I feel this way about a case that we just covered. We did another crossover episode, and I did the case of Bryce Laspiza. And it's one of the, it's like, I could go on for 4 hours about this. So I will, one day I'm going to come back and do like a 5-parter, and I'll let you know when I do.
Yeah. Please do.
But yeah, it's just so crazy and scary because it's like, Kendra, I sure had no idea. And it's just, I don't know, watch out for, change all your passwords after breakups and watch for snowballing behaviors because people should not be losing their lives over a little. Jealousy is natural, but this is not.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, this is.
Well,
Kristen,
you made my dreams come true. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I've loved this.
Good. I'm glad. Me too. Anytime I do a crossover episode, like I've had the best time. And I love all the other podcasts that we've done crossovers with. But I will just tell you, like before I listened to Kristen and her co-host is Mogab before I ever started our podcast. So like this for me was like, I'm like, Mom, I made it. I'm doing it. So
I love that because
I really appreciate you coming on.
I have podcasters that I feel that way about, and I'm like, oh my God, what if I got to be on their podcast? Like, I have that same feeling. So I'm so glad.
Awesome. Well, you guys can check out True Crime Creepers wherever you get your podcasts. And then what is your social media?
We are on Instagram at CreepersPod. And then we have a Facebook discussion group called the True Crime Creepers Discussion Group. It's super fun. It's not all about true crime. People are just in there. It's a good time. So join us in there as well.
Ooh, I'm going to have to join.
Yeah, you should. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think with that, we will be back on this for our feed at least. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode where Kristen is going to tell me a story. But for now, court is adjourned.
Bye.
Bye. Now, if you guys love the pod, make sure you're following us wherever you're listening so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
And while you're at it, we'd be forever in your debt if you had left us a 5-star rating.
For more content from us, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Both are at A Trial by Podcast.
You can also follow us on our Facebook and join our Facebook group.
You can shop our merch by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting our website, atrialbypodcast.com.
A Trial by Podcast is a fully independent podcast. If you'd like to help support us, you can do so by donating through the link in our show notes.
The site we use for this is called Buy Me a Coffee, but don't worry, your donations will never be used for coffee or frivolous things, only for expenses related to running and growing the podcast. So thank you guys for your support.
Thank y'all. Huzzah.
Huzzah.